Dun, dun,
Zach,
dun.
Paul Finebaum, he gave credit to Ohio State. So, the team that just won the national championship, no surprise there. He decided to give credit to Ohio State and say that there are two teams in college football right now that he believes could make the college football playoffs with 9 wins, only 9 wins. And those two teams are Ohio State and Texas. Now, he went into this a little bit longer, but that was the big quote that everybody's kind of running with right now. And so, Zach, my question to you is Paul Finebaum. He's giving some credit to Ohio State here. Now, it's not Indiana, it's not Penn State, it's not Oregon, right? It's not giving credit to any other of these Big Ten programs, but it's a start, right? Like it's one of those situations where like somebody is just kind of like easing their way into supporting something, and you're like, yeah, just a little bit, ease in a
Mhm.
little bit more, a little bit more. That's what Paul Finebaum is doing. Watching 2 or 3 years, he's going to be a full-on Big Ten homer with the rest of us. Probably not,
Not if
but
not if he works for ESPN, he won't.
well, that's true. That's true. But Zach, I'm curious your thoughts. Is Paul Feinbaum already setting the stage for people to begin including teams with 9 wins into the college football playoffs if more SEC teams have only 9 wins? Again, do you think this is a tactic by Paul Feinbaum to get the Alabamas, the Ole Misses, and all of them into the playoffs this year if they have 9 wins?
I think the fact that he's saying Texas has a shot is just stupid.
With nine
Like,
wins?
yeah. So let's look at Texas's schedule for a minute.
Okay.
Yes, they do go on the road to play Ohio State. Then they play San Jose State, the powerhouse that they are.
Okay.
Then they play UTEP, and then Sam Houston State. Murderers Row right there, people. My
Well, the
gosh.
the issue here, Zach, is that you are not giving credit for is Sam Houston State and UTEP are both in the South, which makes them better Group of Five teams than other Group of Five. They're basically the Big 12 in the ACC.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sure. Uh, so and then you have Florida, which will be like, Florida might be good with DJ Lagway. Then they get Oklahoma, which is they're probably going to be a little better this year.
Everybody's
So
got Florida and Oklahoma ranked, Zach.
yeah, and they might be. They might be. So that's fair. They play Kentucky, they stink. They play Mississippi State, they stink. They play Vanderbilt, they're average, below average.
Better than stink.
Yeah, they're better than stink. And then they finish with Georgia, Arkansas, and Texas A&M, who Georgia obviously will be good. Texas A&M will be good. And then Arkansas, eh. Here's my issue. Texas would have to lose like the 3 games that they lose, they would have to lose to bad teams in order to be propped up by good wins. And I'm not
Well,
even sure that works.
what if they lose to at Ohio State, at Florida, and at Georgia? And Florida just so happens to be top 15 team. What if Florida ends up being a top 15 team, 8 wins this season? You don't think
Yeah.
that gets them in?
No. Because who's their best win at that point?
Oklahoma.
Yeah, no.
Well, but Oklahoma's going to be ranked. If Oklahoma has 7 wins, they're going to be on the verge of being ranked.
So their best win would be like 20 be like the 24th ranked team in the country.
But it's an SEC team, Zach.
Well, and that's the
You're not including the SEC bias here.
yeah. I just think
No, I see what you're saying, though. I see
yeah.
what you're saying. There's no concrete win here. I do wonder, what if they beat Ohio State at the beginning of the year, but then they lose to at Florida, at Georgia, and let's say Vanderbilt, right? Or Texas A&M.
Yeah.
People are really into Mike Elko and everything, which, don't get me wrong, Mike Elko, good coach. I give him credit when he was at Duke. I'll give him credit when he was at Texas A&M, and
Yeah.
he did better than Jimbo was doing at some point there. So, but as far as I'm concerned, like, I think he's actually set up better if he beats Ohio State, or if they beat Ohio State, lose to
Yeah.
Florida, Georgia, and one of these other SEC teams like Texas A&M, because then you have the ultimate trump card of all these SEC fans saying, "Well, our fourth place team in the SEC beat the
Yeah.
third place, second place team in the Big Ten, or first place, whatever."
Yeah. That sadly that Texas Ohio State game is going to have ramifications for the playoff
Oh, it's
that
gonna it's going to set up everything for the play. It's
Yeah.
so early in the season, it's going to set up everything.
Which is frustrating because
Yeah.
both Texas and Ohio State lost a ton from last year's team. They're playing game one. And so you're going to make determinations that are incredibly unfair to both of those teams, win or lose. And like Ohio State could blow the doors off of Texas and then go 9-3. And you're like, well, who is Ohio State? And you're not sure. And with Texas, like, who is Texas? But I think you're right. I think the winning team has a much better case to get in at 9-3. But I think Ohio State actually might be in the better position if they're 9-3 than Texas.
Well, and also the winning conference has a better chance of getting a 9-win team in. Like, to me, a lot of this matters who wins this game, who is going to be able to get 9-win teams into the playoffs, right? Because a lot of the SEC and the Big Ten, I mean, the Big Ten doesn't play any SEC teams in the out of conference this year, which I know I defended Matt Rule a little bit, and I stand by that defense that, you know, playing a 10th Power 4 game when people don't see that the SEC is only playing 9 with that, like I think there's some unfairness there. It doesn't mean I want them to do that. It doesn't mean that I, you know, want Nebraska to be playing Cincinnati. Sorry, Nebraska, you're catching strays here. It's just the first out of conference game I thought of. You know, like, it doesn't mean I want Illinois playing Duke. Like, I would rather Illinois play Vanderbilt in the out of conference. I would rather Indiana schedule, I don't know, Florida, right?
Yeah.
How good of an out of conference game would that be? Indiana and Florida. But I also get where Big Ten fans are coming, or Big Ten teams are coming from, saying, why would we schedule a 10th Power 4 game when all these guys are only playing 8 and it would just be their 9th, you know? All right, Zach, so I have some stats here about teams making the college football playoffs with 9 wins. So I was going to actually go and get Juck's stats that he had from this past offseason, but I couldn't find them. So, Juck, if you have that video where you shared all like the 9-win teams that made the playoffs. So I went ahead and just went back myself. So I don't know if these are exactly in line with Juck's or not, but here's what I found. So in 2014, 3 teams with only 9 wins would have made the playoffs. Ole Miss, Arizona, Kansas State. 0 in 2015, and then 4 in 2016. Florida State, Colorado, USC, and Wisconsin.
Wow.
And this is all using the structure of what we have now. This is not saying like these were the top 12 teams. This is using the structure of one Big 12, one ACC, one Pac-12, and one Group of 5. Actually, no, I didn't include the Group of 5 for the Pac-12 was in there because there's only 5. Only 1 in 2017, that's Auburn. 4 in 2018, Penn State, Florida, LSU, Washington. 1 in 2019, Wisconsin. 2 in 2020, Iowa State and Florida. And then since COVID, Zach, only 2 teams in 2022 would have made it with 9 wins. So overall, since the college football playoffs have started, if we were at just 12 teams from the beginning, you would have had 17 teams make it in those, 11 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
You would have had 17 teams make it. That is an average of, what is that? What did I write down?
So 1.7?
1.5.
Yeah,
it's about 1.5 on average to make the college football playoffs since the playoffs started. 5 SEC teams, 5 Pac-12 teams, 3 Big 12 teams, 3 Big 10 teams, and only 1 ACC team, that being Florida State. 2.2 on average would have made the college football playoffs before COVID, who had 9 wins, and only half of a team on average makes the college football playoffs per year with 9 wins.
Interesting.
So if you look at it here, and I didn't count 2020 on either side. I just let 2020 the way it was because that was such a weird year. So I said after 2020, before 2020. So just a really weird situation here because it feels like people are acting like if you lose 3 games, there's no way you can make the college football playoffs nowadays. And they're acting like it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if we look at the way they ranked things before COVID, happened pretty frequently. I mean, there were years where 4 teams would make it with only 9 wins. But since COVID, and this is obviously when conference realignment has started more, it's not been that way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think 3 losses is like an automatic disqualifier.
Yeah.
And like there's certainly a pathway. When I say Texas isn't getting in, there is a pathway for Texas to get in as a 3 loss team. And a lot of it's dependent on how other teams do. Like, how do other teams do in the ACC and the Big 12? How do other teams do in the Big 10? I just think if you're going to be a 9-win team, you better have a good resume to demonstrate why you deserve to be in over a 10-win or an 11-win team. I think that's and that was my frustration this past year when everybody was arguing for these 9-3 teams over 10-2 SMU or 11-2 SMU and 11-1 Indiana. It's like, guys, if Alabama lost to a murderer's row and had the wins that they had, absolutely Alabama has an argument to be in over those teams. The problem is they didn't. They lost to Vandy. They lost to these crap teams. It's like, okay, like this
Well,
is
for Alabama, it was more so Oklahoma to me.
yeah,
I
well,
could have
yeah,
forgave him for Vandy. It was at Vandy, wasn't it?
yeah, but I mean, still, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the pattern of you lost to these 500 level teams.
Right.
Like, I don't care if they look good on paper. Like, you kept losing to these teams. That you can't get away with that. And same thing with South Carolina. It's like, yeah, you had these good wins, but you also had these bad. Ole Miss is the biggest one. Like
Right.
3 losses, and one of them's to Kentucky. Like you can't tell me that this resume is better than 11-1 or 10-2. So you've got to, and that's my biggest issue, and that's why with Ohio State and with Texas, quite honestly, could they get in at 9-3? Sure, I wouldn't want to bank on that
Right.
because like Ohio State could go 9-3, and their losses could be to Texas, Penn State, and Michigan.
Right.
At that point, I'm like, as a Buckeye fan, I'm not. I don't have much hope that they're getting in if their 3 biggest games they lost, or if
Well,
they.
Ohio State fans didn't want him in after this last year. I mean,
It's
I still
fair.
wanted him in, even though I was mad. I still wanted him in. There were other Ohio State fans that were like, "No way! Like, they don't deserve to make it.
Yeah,
They lost to 7-5, Michigan and all this stuff. Like, you know, Ohio State fans getting their feelings a little bit. It's okay. It's okay.
yeah,
It just means they love college football.
it's true.
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. Like, I think at the end of the day, it's just so much of it. It's just so much of it depends on everything else in college
Mm-hmm.
football, right? Like if other Big Ten teams were 9-3 and vying for the playoffs, it would have made more sense for Alabama or Ole Miss or somebody else. And that's what you see these past years when 4 teams made it. Like there was only 1 year when one team made it. Or 2 years. There were only 2 years when one team made it. 2017 Auburn and 2019 Wisconsin. Those were the only 2 years when one team made it. You had multiple teams, 3, 4, some, 2, like you had multiple teams making it the other years
Mm-hmm.
because those were just the years, right? It just came together that way. So
Yeah.
that's how it goes. So what teams with 9 wins could you see making the playoffs then out of the Big Ten?
Out of the Big Ten, I need to pull
I
up the
think Ohio State
schedule.
with their schedule.
Yeah, I think Ohio State could.
I think Indiana's schedule could, but I don't think they would get the national respect. Like
Yeah,
10 win Indiana makes it in this year with that schedule. It's a much harder schedule this year.
yeah,
But I don't think they make it in with 9 wins, personally.
yeah.
Um USC, if they get 9 wins, I think they could. Lincoln Riley's viewed as somebody that got teams to the playoffs before and everything. Like
I could see it depending on how their opponents do. Not having Ohio State or Penn State on their schedule, like not having those 2 teams on their schedule hurts. But they do play. They play at Notre Dame. They
right.
play at Oregon. So like I think that's. I'll tell you actually who I think could do it is Washington.
Maybe.
because they
If
play
they
Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon and Illinois.
Okay, let's backtrack to USC really fast, and then let's go
Okay.
because I have USC pulled up. Let's do USC really fast, and then we'll do Washington because I really like your thought on Washington there, but I want to get to USC because I have them pulled up. So USC has at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Oregon. If they steal one of those road games at Illinois, at Notre Dame, at Oregon, even at Nebraska, Nebraska's gonna be ranked in some people's top 25 right now. They're gonna be in my top 25. I'll tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're kind of getting some love right now. Now it's later on in the season, so we'll see if they're ranked at that time. But still, like you got a pretty bad murderer's row there of at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska. You
Mm-hmm.
take two of those games, and your other losses at Oregon. I think USC could do it. Now they need some help. I don't think they
Yeah.
win and get there on their own. But if there's some other 9-3 teams, I think USC could do it.
Yeah. Especially if they would beat Notre Dame, that
Yeah.
would be, I think, the big, because I think Notre Dame's going to be a top 5, top 10 team and a playoff team this year.
Well, and a lot of people are ranking them that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it there. Here's where I think it's going to be difficult is I think everybody's going to, if they could pull off the upset at Illinois, those first 5 games, the first 4 games, everybody's going to be looking at SC and be thinking, yeah, they haven't played anybody.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about the whole first month of the season, everybody looking at SC as a poser.
Yeah.
And so the Illinois game is a like put up or shut up kind of thing,
Do you think
right?
USC gets any credit for last year? Like USC, they took down 2 SEC teams last year. Now, granted, they weren't Georgia; it was LSU and Texas A&M, but still, those were top half of the SEC fringe fight for to be playoff teams, right? Like, and one of them was in a bowl game. I get that, but still, like, I don't know. I think if USC wins 2 of that stretch there at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, even if the 2 are Illinois and Nebraska, if those 2 teams are having good enough seasons, I think they're in.
Yeah. I can see a path for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Washington. What were you saying on Washington? I'll pull their schedule up.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have enough, I think, difficult games as well. And like they get Ohio State at home. So if they beat Ohio State at home, the defending national champs, they could lose then.
If they beat both Ohio State and I got Notre Dame on the brain. If they beat both Ohio State and Illinois or Oregon and Illinois, I mean, but Illinois is no pushover. Like, it's not going to be easy to beat. We keep talking about like just beat Illinois. It's like no, Illinois is not an easy win this season by any means. That's why we're saying you have to beat them. But if you can steal one of those Ohio State and Oregon and beat Illinois too, yeah, that would be huge. They have to win some road games this year. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't go undefeated at home and then lose every single game away from home. I mean, obviously they can't, but they have to beat either at Michigan or, well, really that's their only tough road game. I mean, at Wisconsin, at UCLA, at Maryland, at Washington State. Of course, they lost Washington State last year, but
yeah, they have to take advantage of a weak road slate.
Yeah,
like they can't lose to Washington. Well, I'll put it this way. I think actually one pathway is they lose to Washington State, but then beat Ohio State, and then maybe lose at Michigan, and then maybe Illinois, but then they win the last game against Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
You like say you have wins against Ohio State and Oregon at home, but you have a weird loss at Wazoo, and it's a rivalry game.
You basically have to do what Ole Miss did last year and hope that there are other teams that are also in that scenario.
Yeah.
And whoever you beat is just amazing.
Yeah. And part of it too could be like you lose to Washington State by like 3.
Yeah.
You can't lose by 18 to a 4-8 team. Sorry, Ole Miss.
Yeah, you can't do that. All right. Couple other teams really fast to throw at you. Michigan, I don't think Michigan could. That schedule's too easy this year.
Yeah, well,
you can't lose to at Oklahoma, at Nebraska, at USC. Like even if you beat Ohio State, I don't think that gets them in. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying those are easy road games by any means.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like
Yeah.
those are some of their biggest games on the schedule.
Yeah. I need to retract something. I just accused Ole Miss of losing by 18 to Kentucky. That did not happen. I was thinking of Georgia losing to Ole Miss.
Oh yeah, they lost.
That's
by
my
18.
bad. I if Oklahoma ends up being really good this year, I think that changes things for Michigan.
Maybe, but Oklahoma's got a really tough schedule too. I mean, that Oklahoma schedule is Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like Wisconsin and Oklahoma this year are the two teams that it's like, even if you're good, you're not going to be considered good because the schedule's just so tough, right?
Yeah. But I mean, you look at their schedule, like I think SC could end up being in the top 25. I think Washington could end up in the top 25. They get to play Ohio State at the end of the year, at Oklahoma, at Nebraska. Like 3 losses probably knocks them out.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on like what the rest of the slate looks like.
Yeah, I agree. Rapid fire really fast. I'm just going to name off a couple teams, and I think we know their schedules well enough. Illinois, I don't think they can do it with only 9 wins.
No.
You can't beat Ohio State, Washington. You can't lose to Ohio State, Washington, USC. A win over Indiana is not going to get you in there.
Yeah.
And a win over
Agreed.
Washington isn't going to get you in there if you beat Indiana.
Yep. Agreed.
Or if you lose to Indiana.
Well, and especially because Illinois doesn't have the cachet like in Ohio State or Penn State.
This.
Yeah.
Like even like, and I hear some people saying like Washington might not in the chat. Like I've seen some people saying like, well, Washington's not going to be a contender this year if they win 10 games. Like, because they won the national championship 2 years ago. Like they start winning and they got cachet. Like,
yeah.
And they beat Texas 2 years ago. So, and now granted that was with Kalen DeBoer, but still like that stuff still carries over for a program. Indiana, I mean that schedule's tougher. I think if they were named Oregon, I think they would with 9 wins, but just not enough cachet for the program, right?
They would need to beat one of the big names to get consideration.
Yeah, but both their big names at Oregon, at Penn State.
Right. Well, if they could go, imagine they beat Penn State at Penn State and it's a whiteout. That would be.
But then who would? Sorry, go ahead.
That would be a big step. And they might lose to Iowa, and that might derail it. But if they are like they could get a lot of respect for a win at Penn State.
Yeah. Terry asks, "Are you seeing my comments on X?" No, we're not seeing any comments on X tonight, guys. I don't know if that's an X issue or what. But if you're watching on X and you want to be in the chat and for us to see your comments, you probably need to move over to YouTube. So, sorry, we don't control that. But Terry, thanks for moving over here. We can see your comments now. Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me is like there's not even like a fringe team here. Like you lose to Oregon, Penn State, and Illinois. I mean, Iowa maybe, but I mean it is at Iowa. But I don't know. I just don't think Indiana has a cachet, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They get in with 10 wins though. You lose at Oregon, at Penn State. You win the rest of your games though. Indiana's in. What was the other team I was gonna mention? Oh, Oregon. Last one. Oregon. Then we'll move on. Does Oregon make it with only 9 wins this season?
I don't think so.
Schedule's too.
It's a weak schedule.
Yeah, you only get one Penn State. You don't have Ohio State. I mean, you have Indiana on there, but it's at home.
You don't have Michigan. You don't have Illinois.
Like if Oregon blows out, and I'm not saying this will happen, Indiana fans, but if Oregon does blow out Indiana at home, that's going to be viewed the same way the blowout over Illinois was last year, right? Like, it sucks because that is a good team, but they just don't have the cachet of other teams.
Yeah, you almost need Indiana to play it close to be like they're actually better than you'd expect.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you beat them 30-9. Is that what the score was against Illinois last year?
think it was 38-9.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Wow, just rub it in, Zach. Jeez.